Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom Orr and also Kevin behind the scenes. Tom, how's it going?
Well, Tony, I got to see a Brutus Buckeye made out of old recycled tires today, so I'm pretty much good for the trip. We can go home if we want to, or we can stay for the football game on Friday, either way.
Did you touch Brutus?
I did not. Was I supposed to? I feel like I was not supposed to.
I think you could have. The players were. All five players that we talked to today got their pictures taken with the tired Brutus. He's about 6 foot tall.
No,
because he was even with the Mecca. Now he may have he on a
he was on
foundation?
A platform.
Okay,
yeah,
so
he was on a platform.
I thought he looked a little short, but then a Mecca stood next to him. I was like, oh, okay, maybe. Now he is not life size. He's probably 1.25 scale, 1:1. He's like a 5'5" Brutus as opposed to a 6'5" Brutus.
I have to interrupt you. I'm sorry. We have a very important super chat that we have to get to from Jordan Kapler, longtime friend of the program. Pickles.
It just says Pickles.
Kevin, do you have any idea what that's all about?
I have no idea. I'm just thankful that we're getting to the end of 2023 and Jordan's hate can go elsewhere.
I don't think this is hate.
No. I think this is respect, excitement, anticipation.
Well, I don't know how much explaining to do about this in terms of what the pickles mean. If you saw yesterday's show, we don't need to go too far into it. Kevin has agreed to eat 150 pickles tomorrow night because somebody super chatted $100, and so
you at home are going, wait, there must be more to it than that. No.
I say pickles or pickle slices?
Pickle slices.
Okay.
Arguably, there's less. I do like the fact that now our chat is just pickle emojis, which
well, could be worse.
Good thing he didn't. There we go. All right, Kevin said it, so I didn't.
So that's what the pickles mean. But we're not here just to talk about pickles. There's plenty of time to talk about pickles later on in the show. Also tomorrow.
There will be plenty of time to talk about the pickles.
There will. Anyway, so today we talked to Brian Hartline, Travion Henderson, who is playing, Kate Stover, who is playing, but not as much as normal. He said that. Emeka Abuka, and
Xavier
Johnson. There was
and Devin Brown,
quarterback.
He's
Devin
the quarterback
Brown.
now,
Right.
Tony. That's actually pretty significant.
And so got to talk to all five of those guys, and of course Brian Hartline to make six. Watch 15 minutes of practice. I feel like today's practice we didn't learn nearly as much because we learned it all yesterday.
Yeah, I don't think we learned a ton today. There was about the most consequential thing that I saw was there were times when Cade Stover and Tommy Eichenberg were sort of off to the side. Tommy Eichenberg was not wearing shoulder pads today. Yeah. He had been participating in some drills yesterday. He was sort of off to the side today. I think I'm leaning more towards the folks who think Tommy Eichenberg is not going to play are probably correct. Cade Stover, as you said, is planning to play, but was real forthright about, there's going to be more opportunities for the young guys because I'm not going to be able to go as much as I can because he's also not 100% healthy. He wants to play if it was up to him, and I'm sure if it was up to Tommy Eichenberg, they would be playing the full game, but they're just not physically in a spot where they can necessarily go 100% for the full game.
And Tommy just looks miserable standing around practice, not being able to go or not participating in too much and stuff. And as you said, didn't have any shoulder pads. Marvin Harrison, of course, still not practicing. Brian Hartline, when asked about, just talking like it's assumed that Marvin isn't playing, he's like, hey, how do you know he's not playing? And, of course, other than the fact that his teammates are telling us that he's not playing and he's not practicing at all. Now, Marvin Harrison could not practice all week and probably just, step in. But that's not going to happen. It would be the biggest shock of the year if Marvin Harrison plays on Friday.
I'm not expecting to be shocked by that. I mean, we have seen Ohio State. We saw Chris Olave practice and then not play. Not practicing and then playing doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense. It's not, it's not like they're doing super, super physical stuff where you'd worry about getting hurt in practice. It's been, this is the time of year when they do some hitting, but you're now winding things back down a little bit. So, I don't I don't think that there's I don't think there's any reason to suspect that he's going to play on Friday.
Question on the chat here from Rusty Jesse about what about the other number 18, Jair Brown, where reports of his transfer premature. I think he's gone.
I was not looking for him at practice today, but I did not see him at practice today.
Yeah, so. Generally when those reports happen, they're real, and then we have not seen him or heard about the entering the portal, like coming back. So I don't know if there are people saying that, but he's not looking for any number 18 out there other than Marvin. So no, he seems to be gone. And
and he 23 hours ago tweeted the transfer portal account at transfer portal _ 10 top 10 best available players left in the transfer portal. And he quote tweeted it with "I'm here still" with a skull. So yes, still
good
in
source.
The transfer portal. Yes,
yeah, impeccable source there. So yeah, I think he would be a pretty good pickup for somebody, and he will be a good pickup for somebody. In terms of anything else that we learned at practice, I don't think there's anything of note because we saw punting, some field goals. And we didn't even get to see really the quarterbacks throw to the receivers like we did yesterday. We saw quarterbacks throwing to some running backs. And right now it's still Travion Henderson and Dallin Hayden as your top two, with TC Caffey as the third guy running through drills. Saw Carnell Tate and Brandon Ennis as two of the four punt returners, along with Emeka Ibuka and Jaden Ballard. And really that was about my entire take from practice.
Yeah, they did. They had receivers working on one-handed catches at one point, which is always very impressive that they can just kind of like grab it out of the air. Emeka Ibuka caught one behind his back, which was pretty cool. I still haven't finished going through my pictures from this morning, so I think I have a good one of that, but we'll see. Yeah, it was kind of, very pro forma. Like you have to be in here for 15 minutes, so you can be in here for 15 minutes. When we were at Missouri practice right before we left, Missouri had their offensive linemen running like 9 routes down the sidelines with their quarterbacks throwing the ball to their offensive linemen. So, last year we had Kirby Smart doing yoga on the second day of media access. Today it was offensive linemen running pass routes. So either, Tony, we have an incredible trick play ahead on Friday, or Eli Drinkwitz may have learned from Kirby Smart last year and figured out how to troll the media.
Well, I also heard somebody say that they were playing kickball, and I didn't know, based on seeing the yoga the year before, I didn't know if that was a joke or serious. And also based on what you were telling me about what they're doing, I was like, well, I guess that makes sense. Just you don't need to do football all the time while you're at a bowl game. Go have some fun with this arduous football thing that is just terrible. Why not have some kickball in there, or some throwing balls to tight ends, maybe going for big man touchdown, tackle eligible, split out, towards the hashes, things like that. Tom, I saw somebody mention here, Tim Skeldon, if you're not playing, they should not be allowed at practice or the game. They're a distraction. I can promise you nobody is distracted by Marvin Harrison being out there, Tommy Eichenberg.
No.
They're not in the way, and sometimes they're helping, sometimes they're coaching the younger players, depending on when this is, where it is. But nobody is distracted by them. I don't think people would necessarily believe how many people are out there, and it's not just the 10 coaches, the 2 GAs, and the analysts. There are probably twice that number of just people running around, checking on players, and that's not just including the water and the Gatorade people. There are people, I don't know who they are, walking around, talking to players. It is a large gathering of workers and staff that and really what we're watching there and throughout the practice, I don't think you're distracted because, again, you've done this practice how many times, and also you are still focused on doing your job because you're getting graded on everything you do. And it's not like Marvin or Tommy Eichenberg are out there goofing off.
Right.
So,
yeah, when I saw Marvin at the beginning of practice, he was standing over talking to Keenan Bailey on the sideline as the guys were warming up. But yeah, it's not like he's standing over there goofing around and being like, "Oh, hey guys, look, I can do a cartwheel." Like they're all, professionals. They know what they're doing. They know what they should and should not be doing. So yeah, it's not, those guys are not in the way. And, there's also just the factor of these guys are people who are teammates. They've been on this team all year. Everyone understands why Marvin Harrison Jr. is not playing in the game. Like, this is not like a mystery. This is not, he's abandoning the team. This is a guy who has a lot of money ahead of him and a very bright NFL future ahead of him. And, it's not a mystery why he's not playing. No one is offended that he's not playing. It's just, he's not playing, and that's fine. And he is not the first, and he will probably not be the last unless they never miss the playoffs. In which case, he might be the last.
The real distractions are
the noises.
No, because that is what we do here at the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. So if you hear that, I'm not even going to apologize. I'm just going to acknowledge it. But the distractions come, I think, a lot of times from the non-serious players. Yeah. And those two, and whoever else we're talking about, like Tommy Eichenberg and Marvin Harrison, are very serious players. So they're not going to be goofing off. The biggest distraction I ever saw from a non-playing person was Nick Bosa, showing up at the Rose Bowl. But even that was just during stretching, and everybody was happy to see him. And then they go on and practice because they all have a job to do, and they take it very seriously.
Just to let you, I just pulled up a picture, very quickly edited a picture, and then put it on here just so you can see on the live stream. This is from the practice, just a wide shot of the practice. And, this is the whole team kind of lined up in one end zone. They're running. But, look at all the people around there not, in uniform. You got coaches, you got QA guy or QC guys, you've got other assistants, like non-countable assistants, you've got trainers, you've got medical people, media people. There's a million people in there. So it's not, this is not like, this very small group of people. Even once the media leaves, it's not quite like the old thing where, the military, there's, 5 people behind the front lines for every person that's on the front lines. But there's a lot of people that kind of make the whole process go for Ohio State football.
And if you're hearing this loud whirring noise that sounds like, I just want to reassure you that is not Kevin, and this is not post Pickles.
It is just because I think people are going to think, oh, haha, they did this to be funny. No, we sat down here. Tony was sitting here for like an hour before we started. It's dead silent.
Yep.
This is Radio Row here. So whoever, if you have a radio show or whatever, you can set up your stuff here. Okay, great. 10 minutes before, 5 minutes before we started, someone starts using like a torque wrench or something on the roof. So it's canon. There's a reason. Tradition, Tony.
They knew we were going to be here.
Traditions never die.
RK says, Cade Stover said that we should see a lot of Jelani Thurman on Friday. I think everybody would be happy with that. Obviously, you're going to see a lot of G. Scott Jr., but Jelani Thurman moves up the list then. And yeah, I think this is a glimpse of what you're going to see next year. And this is an opportunity, perhaps, Tom, for the 3 touchdown catches that Marvin Harrison had in the Rose Bowl as a true freshman. What do you think? Over under 2.5 touchdowns for Jelani Thurman.
I'm going to bravely take the under, and I will let you have 3 points for 3 Jelani Thurman touchdowns.
How about 2?
When we do our bold prediction show. 2 points for 3 touchdowns. That's fine.
No.
So we'll do our bold prediction show a little later on in the week. But yeah, it feels like with Cade Stover being limited, and with Marvin Harrison being presumably out, and with Julian Fleming being in Nebraska, you have an opportunity for some of the younger guys. And that's what makes this kind of bowl game interesting and exciting, is you have some of these younger guys. It's a little bit of a head start on 2024 where, okay, Marvin Harrison isn't going to be here, but good news, Carnell Tate is.
Yeah.
And Julian Fleming isn't going to be here, but good news, maybe it's Brandon Ennis, maybe it's, someone else, but it feels like you're going to get to see you're going to get to sort of get a glimpse of the future, and the future may include Devin Brown as well.
Yeah. And also Emeka Egbuka, where, he has not talked about his situation next year. I did ask him, are you looking forward to this game? Because you are going to be the top receiving option. And I guess I shouldn't be surprised by his answer, because he said, that's never been my makeup. That's never been my goal. That's not what I'm concerned about with this game. And it goes back to when I talked to him when he came back from injury, and I said, are you trying to make up for lost time? He's like, I don't think about stats. Like, I'm not trying to catch up on the stats that I put up last year. It's never been something he's been worried about. And so I think that's interesting. But I do think it's going to be fun watching him if he is the focal point of the passing game. And I don't know that he will be, but why wouldn't he be? They're going to move him around.
Mm-hmm.
They will also move. Carnell Tate will be in the slot as well, moving around. He'll be playing everywhere, just like Marvin Harrison did. And so you'll see those two guys. Tom, how much Jaden Ballard are you expecting? Because he is the backup Z or backup Z.
He is one of the backup Zs, and I feel like
The starting Z is gone.
We have just sort of been waiting for that to happen for so long that I'm kind of at the I'm going to stop assuming it's going to happen until it happens point where, coming out of last season, it was like, all right, this is the opportunity for Jaden Ballard to take that next step, and you just kind of never saw it. And at some point, either you've gotten passed by a bunch of guys who are younger than you, or it's your time, one or the other. And you're kind of getting to that point where, okay, you lost presumably two starters from this week's game, from this season for this week's game. You felt like he was in the top 5, the top 6 for this season. So now you're in the top 3 to 4. So if it doesn't happen now, you sort of wonder if it's going to happen for him because he's been around for a long time. And if it doesn't happen, it's because guys who are 2 years behind him, he came into the same class as Emeka Ibuka and Marvin Harrison. So he was ranked not all that far behind Marvin Harrison in the recruiting rankings. So, he could theoretically be turning pro, and he hasn't really gotten any kind of regular rotation spot yet. So if you start getting passed by guys a couple of years behind you, then you're probably, at that point, you're probably evaluating things. So this is going to be a real interesting week and then spring for him as he sort of figures out, where does he fall in that pecking order? Because that is an easy place to get past.
Do you know how many catches he has this year?
I think he had 9 last year, he said, stalling.
8.
I think he might have fewer than that this year. Does he have like 4 or 5 this year?
He does not have any catches this year.
Really?
He has 1 fewer catches than Patrick Gerd. I was surprised.
Wow.
I knew he didn't have many, but I don't remember any of them, so I wanted to look. And 0 is a big number, ironically.
Yeah, well, and I guess they didn't have – when they were playing Youngstown State, that game was close longer than you would think. Mm-hmm. So the guys who were further down the depth chart didn't get to play as much. But, how many of the true freshmen have more catches than he does this year? Carnell Tate does. Mm-hmm. Brandon Ennis does. Brandon Ennis only has 1, but he has 1.
Right. And the other 2.
Noah Rogers and Bryson Rogers.
They do not have any catches.
Right? Yeah, okay.
So,
but boy, that's
9 catches in his career.
And Jelani Thurman has more.
Yeah.
That's amazing for 3 years in to have, because he had the Akron game in 2021, he had the long touchdown and everyone went, oh, there it is. That's what we've been waiting for so long. And then it's just kind of been not a whole heck of a lot since then.
Now, I will say Terry McLaurin had 11 catches after 3 years at Ohio State.
Oh, yeah.
So everybody has their own time frame, as Brian Hartline loves to say. And it does take some guys a different time frame, but just because you don't do it in your first 3 years doesn't mean you won't do it in your last 2.
Right.
But also the era that we're in now, players aren't necessarily as patient for their year 4 and year 5 and waiting around. And also at Ohio State, the receiver room is tough to get into, which is we talked to Luther Burden yesterday. Kevin asked him, hey, how interested were you in Ohio State? What kind of went wrong there? And he's like, well, I really liked him when I got the offer. But then you look at it more and it's like, that was a loaded receiver room. And I felt like I didn't need to go there to achieve my goals. And basically I'm going to go somewhere where I can play immediately. Yeah. And he made he made a correct decision for what he's doing right now.
Yeah. Well, he's in a spot where you look at him and you can't say, oh boy, what a terrible decision. Because he's the leading receiver for a team that's in the New Year's Six, won 10 games, playing in his home state. You can look at that and go, yeah, sure. This is like we have the long running thing where you go to Miami and no one ever hears from you again. Well, guess what? You've heard from Luther Burden. You have not heard from any of the Miami guys, but you've heard from Luther Burden now. And he's he was first team All SEC this year, and he's had a very nice, very nice career so far, and seems like he's you're probably going to be able to reach your goals in terms of being a relatively high NFL draft pick and all that kind of stuff. So, and this time next year, Missouri, if they are 10-2 again, they're what, 9th in the country right now. So congratulations, you're probably in the playoff in some form next year if you can repeat this.
Playing somewhere on somebody else's campus, and again, we don't need to wish away this season, Tom. There's still one important game left nationally for everybody, and that is, of course, the Cotton Bowl between number 9 Missouri and number 7 Ohio State. And if you're watching on YouTube right now, which you must be because we're live, please go ahead and hit that thumbs up. That would do us some wonders with the algorithms, and we would appreciate that.
Charles wants to know, is Marv going to play or no? No.
I
mean, Marv hasn't said that,
Right.
but other people have talked about the fact that they're going to be playing without him, and he hasn't practiced in the 2 practices we've seen. So,
Brian Hartline is no selling this right now. He's not saying one way or the other. They're just allowing Marvin to make the announcement. And you know what? If I say no, he's not playing, and then Marv goes out and plays, I'm not going to be the only one. We're not going to be the only 2 or only 3 people that are saying Marvin Harrison isn't playing, and be like, how could you? You're the only 2 people that got this wrong. We'll all be wrong about that one.
So, several of his teammates will have been wrong as well.
Yes, and those were the sources that I'm using.
Yes.
So,
all right. Do we want to hit a couple questions real quick?
Somebody was asking about the spread. I was just answering about.
Is that up to 2?
It's up to 2. I mean, it's various books. I mean, top lines if they're going to bet on it.
Because what was Missouri's? Yes, wager wire. What was Missouri's best when they were favored by the most?
2.5 was where it was when 2.5 was where it was when
McCord left, or
no, when we were doing the interviews and the players all started talking about the fact that they were going to play. So I would assume that that's probably about as high as it got, 2.5, give or take. So yeah, I mean, I think Ohio State started favored by a little bit, and then it swung back the other way. It looks like we have a super chat.
Well, let's talk about it then.
That's fine. Mellow number 7 says, just because I love the show, let's start a Denzel Burke for captain next year.
Ooh, I'm all for that.
I like Denzel Burke.
I like him a lot, and he is. I keep saying he's like one of the most serious dudes, and I was glad to see a picture of him today with a smile. He's always great to talk to. He is when he talks about freshmen and young guys or anybody, and he talks about how they still have a long ways to go. He is talking about the off the field stuff and the seriousness of how you have to take this game. And Emeka Egbuka was talking about that with Carnell Tate, and how him and Marv as freshmen had that same mentality of taking care of everything off the field, doing everything correctly so that you will play. Denzel Burke was the exact same way. And I don't know if it was Clay Hall who asked him yesterday about, you were just thrust in there as a true freshman. You had to start. He's like, well, Denzel was like, I earned it. I won the job. Just let's be clear. Like, I won the job. I wasn't just thrown in there because there was nobody else. Like, I won the job. And he's very serious about that, and very serious about the way he handles himself. I would be all for him being a captain next year. Probably, if he wasn't, it's maybe because, I don't know, maybe he just doesn't talk enough, but that dude is very well respected around the program.
Yeah, and I wanted to throw up the picture of Marvin Harrison from practice today, just for people who are wondering what was Marvin Harrison doing. Yesterday he was on the bike. Today, just standing there, no pads. He was wearing shorts. He was talking to Keenan Bailey there before the start of practice, but I mean, like, extremely not practicing, not even not practicing in the way that guys who, Tommy Eichenberg, for example, who looks like he's probably banged up and, wasn't wearing shoulder pads. Like, Tommy Eichenberg wasn't practicing in one way. Marvin Harrison wasn't practicing in another way. So yeah, I think that is probably your answer right there.
So I'm looking at the line history from this game. So when it was announced, it was OSU -6.5, and then down to -5.5, and then I think the portal opened and Kyle McCord entered, and then it dropped to 3.5 for Ohio State, and then within the span of a few hours, it was down to 2.5, then 1.5 the next day, and then Missouri finally took the lead and became the favorite on December 5th, the day after the portal opened at 1.5. They have never been up by more than 2.5, and Ohio State jumped back in front on December 21st.
So if you got the OSU money line when it was +2.5.
We don't need to talk about that, Tom. That's not important. Nobody cares about that. That's not their money.
That's
Hey,
true.
tell me more about your fantasy team. Nobody cares. Next question.
RK with just a super chat. I guess just a good job. So thank you, RK.
Thank you, RK. That will be money well spent. We can were the pickle jars $2.49 a piece or so?
The pickle jars were, I think it was $7.39 altogether. So it was like $3.39 or so.
Okay.
Pickle excise tax.
So
$7.39.
And I made a point to ask Kevin last night, do you have a brand of choice?
Right.
Is there a specific kind, specific whatever? I got the closest thing I could get. They did not. His preferred brand is Vlasic. If Vlasic is looking to sponsor the show, by all means, reach out. If former San Diego Chargers backup quarterback from Tecmo Super Bowl, Mark Vlasic, is interested in sponsoring the show, we're always interested for a Tecmo Super Bowl tie-in.
I will say Mount Olive is pleasant. It's not as harsh as Vlasic. I know Kevin really likes his deal, but I think the Mount Olive is going to treat you better than the Vlasic. That's how I believe. That's how I feel.
And
did you go to the low sodium edition or the high sodium edition?
Extra sodium.
Extra
yes.
sodium. Good job.
The Dead Sea pickles is what I went for. Thought, well,
you can float on these pickles.
You can.
Yes.
They all float down here. Yes. Bob's Vet says, sounds like they're not taking this game seriously. Hope they're ready for Friday. I mean, I think they're taking the game seriously. I think, if you weren't taking the game seriously, you wouldn't have Travion Henderson, Mecca Buka,
right,
and JT Tuimoloau and all these guys playing. You wouldn't have, if you decided the season was over. I go back to, I think it was the 2020 season when we were in New Orleans for the Sugar Bowl, and there was the Oklahoma, Florida, whatever it was, Sugar Bowl, Orange Bowl. No, it wouldn't have been the Sugar Bowl, Orange Bowl, or I think on TV, and I think Florida had like 15 players sitting out or something like that, and it was one of the dumbest, grossest games I've ever watched. This is not that. You've got, presumably one guy sitting out and maybe someone else sitting out because they're injured. That's not they're not taking things seriously. That's
You see what the number of Texas A&M is down to in scholarship players for this game?
I did not.
55.
That is some.
Jim Harbaugh would cancel that game.
That is some post Charlie West. That is some post Charlie West, Charlie Weiss, Kansas stuff right there.
That was bad.
David Beatty might have had something in the 40s when he took that program over. Yeah, that's.
The Aggies will also only have 3 scholarship receivers dressed out for this game.
Well, and Florida State's the one that's like, I mean, they're too deep. I looked at their too deep. I'm like, there's at least 2 or 3 equipment guys on this list. Like, it is.
You see all those pictures, those people in Tom's photos. Like 7 of those people would have to suit up for Texas A&M or
they're starting right guard was holding a water bottle, keeping people hydrated at practice 3 weeks ago. What's going on?
Hydration specialist, run game specialist.
I'll pop this in real quick. There's Denzel Burke.
Yeah, the smile that I was talking about.
Smile on his face. I mean, just, you're allowed to have fun, especially while you're stretching. Like, I think he was just talking to, I forget who it was. It was someone on offense. It was Xavier Johnson was right next to him. He was talking to Xavier Johnson, and they're joking around. And there's at one point, Davis Nigbinosin is sitting there, and the OSU camera person is out there. The social media people out there with their cameras, and he's making a face or whatever at the camera. It's like you're allowed to have fun. Like, you're college kids. This is not life or death this Friday, but it's a football game that if you're playing in the football game, you're taking it seriously.
For sure.
All right. So Omar wants to know, when is Kevin's Pickle Fest? I feel like we need to come up with a better name than that.
I do like that you mentioned that. Just out in the Pickle Palooza. We do go ahead and we'll workshop it. Go ahead and throw some suggestions out there, and if we find something we like, we'll totally steal it and brand it that way. But yeah, we will eventually come up with a name and we will promote. But it's going to be sometime tomorrow.
It'll be
Evening.
Thursday early evening,
Right.
I would guess. I don't know specific times yet, but yeah,
Spoil your appetite.
Thursday early evening. Figure something in the probably
7 to 7:30, 7:30 to 8.
Well, I was going to say like the 6:30 to 8:30.
I like
kind of
we're
window,
discussing
somewhere in
this.
there.
Kevin's
Yeah,
over
well,
there.
What does he have to?
Earlier than later, so I have time to purge and then enjoy the rest of my night.
You want to switch rooms?
No. Okay, so between 6:30 and 8, thereabouts, and the earlier the better per Kevin. Not that we're going to take that into consideration.
Yeah,
It's just whatever is better for the entire group that will be able to watch live, both online. And I can tell you, there is
the interest locally is
interest here
high to quite high.
The media on this one is all hands on deck as everybody watches this and nobody will admit it.
This may be, if we turn the camera around, it's going to look like the network battle of the stars, because you're going to have people from every possible site.
It's going to look like the Ellen photo from like the Oscars or whatever of the Ohio State beat, or just a random photo from Jerry Emick when he drops by and takes a picture of everybody. That's what it's going to look like, because everybody's going to be rooting for Kevin Noon to eat at least. I'll be happy with just 60. Anything above that.
The only thing that I'm going to take umbrage with is your use of the word "for." They're going to be rooting, and Kevin Noon is going to be, in there somewhere. How many people are rooting for him to do it versus how many people are rooting for this to end poorly? We don't need to name names or anything, but
no, I think people are rooting for this to happen. So you're right; they're rooting for the thing. They're not necessarily rooting for the person. But again,
the rider on the bus ride back thought I would be able to accomplish it easily.
That's true. One person.
Incorrect.
Everybody else was like, we'll believe. We believe in you. We'll see. I believe that Kevin can do it. I don't believe that he should.
No.
But
no.
Who am I? I am just a lowly.
What a question.
Person.
Who are you?
Terry Kovac, when will the final injury report be given? Who is playing? Honestly, I feel like we can probably give you a pretty good rundown now, and it would be just as accurate as the list that is given that is not necessarily always accurate. They'll tell us who is out, but sometimes names are left out. But as we said at the start, we're not expecting Tommy Eichenberg to play. Jim Knowles said yesterday that he is still up in the air. So that is something I don't know. I'm not expecting it, but it is up in the air at this point. Anybody else? Obviously, Lathan Ransom is out.
Right.
Cade Stover will play, he may be right now listed as
a game time decision.
Even though he said he'll play, but he won't play much. So that gives you an idea. Any other injuries?
That feels like he's going to give it a go,
right?
Because he wants to give it a go, and he might be out there for one series, and maybe he can do more.
Yeah.
But he's not going to not play. He's made up his mind on that. But he might be out there for a series, and that's it.
The coin toss and the kickoff. Because what was it? The one game that he missed later on in the season, like he went out for the coin toss, and then he came back and put his helmet on the sideline, and that was it. Yeah, it was definitely a home game.
Yeah.
Probably may have been senior. I don't know if it's senior day. Whatever.
Let's see. We're gonna.
We are not calling a pickle party. That's just a hard no, that's just a no.
David Grinshield wants to know, how do we see the carries being distributed? And there are a lot fewer names than you would have had in previous games and previous weeks.
But there's a quarterback now involved.
There is a quarterback now involved. So your scholarship running backs are Travion Henderson, Dallin Hayden, end of list. The third string back for this game is TC Caffey, the walk-on, who you may remember from a really fantastic long touchdown run last year against, who was that against? Akron? Who was
Toledo?
That? Toledo? Yeah, someone.
Eastern Michigan?
One of the MAC
Miami,
teams.
Western Michigan?
One of the in-state MAC teams. And then he tore up his knee and missed all of last year, most of this year. So now he's the third string back going into this game. I think you're probably going to see a couple carries for Xavier Johnson, and you're probably going to see, how many carries do we see for Devin Brown? 10?
We all put predictions for Devin Brown's numbers on the message board, on the Buckeye Huddle message board. I also included carries. I went with 9 because I went with 10. I was like, boy, that's a lot. Because how many rushes are there going to be in this game for Ohio State? If they're winning, probably 40. If they're not, maybe 30, 35. So you've got a couple for Xavier. I think Emeka maybe gets 1 or 2 in there just on the jet sweep stuff. Mm-hmm. But that number for Devin Brown, who has more carries, Devin Brown or Dallin Hayden? I would probably go Devin Brown in this one because they're going to dial some stuff up. Yeah. There are going to be some scrambles. We're going to throw sacks in there as well. Right. That's good. So called runs, 4 to 5 scrambles,
Well,
4 to 5.
Ryan Day has talked a lot about how important it is to this team to win this game. And if you're going to win this game, you've got a new quarterback in there, and you have the opportunity over the span. You can't install a new offense in a week.
Right.
You can install a whole mess of stuff over the course of a month. And with a new quarterback who's a different skill set than your previous quarterback, you have the opportunity to do a bunch of different stuff. So I think you could see, not that the whole base of the offense is different, but they could have a whole series of plays, a package of plays of Devin Brown runs, and there's a give off of that, and there's a fake off of that, and there's an RPO off of that, and then there's you run a trap off of it, whatever. And so I think you're going to see a decent amount. You're going to see him probably run the speed option at some point. You're going to see him, run between the tackles at some point. You're going to see him pull the ball and run the ball outside at some point. You're going to do a bunch of that stuff because that's the stuff that Missouri has not necessarily seen on film. They're not necessarily prepared for, and then they have to figure that out. And while they're figuring that out, you can do some other stuff and you're just trying to keep them off balance.
And David Greenshield also asking if the zone read is going to make a comeback. I think you'll see some of that, or at least it will look like it. It may be called one way or the other, but I think you do bring that back because that obviously slows down the defensive end, slows down the linebackers a little bit, gives your running game a little bit of an advantage, and it's something that they've missed for 3 years now.
Yeah.
With Kyle McCord and 2 years of C.J. Stroud, so maybe this would be
and before C.J. Stroud, Justin Fields.
Yeah.
Before Justin Fields was Dwayne Haskins. So I mean, it's been what 4 of the last 6 years they haven't really had that.
Yeah, so this is an opportunity, and like you said, they've had plenty of time to work on it. So, Terry Kovac, do you think Day will open it up? They will open it up as much as Devin Brown is capable of having it open it up. Yeah. So, what is that? I mean,
what is opening it up mean? Is that they're flinging the ball over? I don't think he's throwing the ball 60 times. If he is, that's probably not a good thing.
Right.
But I think you're going to be seeing a bunch of different stuff. So that's something. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't think it's just going to be a conservative. We can only do this, and it's just going to be quarterback quarterback power, running back. I think you dial up what you have on the offense, and they've had a month now to 3.5 weeks now to understand, 3 weeks to know what Devin Brown is best at. So you've devised your offense around that. But opening it up, I think they're still trying to win it. So they're not going to open it up and have that hurt them. They're still going to try to take care of the ball. Ryan Day wants his quarterbacks to take care of the ball, and whoever takes care of the ball best wins the job, as we know. And I'm sure that's not lost on Devin Brown. But they're going to throw it. It's Ohio State, and they've got the receivers, so you're not going to ignore Emeka Ibuka. You're not going to ignore Carnell Tate. You're going to get those guys action. And I do feel better about the prediction yesterday in terms of Carnell Tate versus Cade Stover, who has more catches. We both went with Carnell Tate. So I feel better about that one today as well.
Yeah, for sure. Mello number 7 says, how excited are you throughout the game? And do you guys get to enjoy watching it even though you're working? So in terms of enjoying the game while you're working it, I mean, it's different. I enjoy shooting photos, and
I hate football, but I enjoy watching.
Yeah, no, I enjoy what I do, and I do try to make a point to take a moment to look around and go, hey, this is pretty cool, just so I don't forget that. Because you are working during the game. Yeah. Well, I can't speak for Kevin, but Tony and I are working during the game. We're doing a lot of.
Don't speak for me, but you are correct.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm down there, I'm running back and forth and trying to run into the photo room to get dump a memory card with the photos over so that I can edit them real quick during halftime, and you're kind of just perpetual motion. But yeah, it's this is a place where we've all covered multiple games before. It's a cool stadium. This is a team I have not seen in person, so they'll be in Mizzou, and it should be a good, exciting football game. And that's the one thing that I have found is that if it's a good game, it's a good game. And during the the end of the last 5 minutes of the Notre Dame game, I just kept thinking, wow, this is an incredible football game. And during the last 5-10 minutes of the Michigan game, I kept thinking, wow, this is an incredible football game and just incredible stakes. And whether it was the Fiesta Bowl in 2019 against Clemson or the Rose Bowl against Utah a couple of years ago.
The Rose Bowl was incredible.
The Rose Bowl was an incredible football game. There was another one. The Peach Bowl last year against Georgia. That was an incredible football game. And you can, even though you're busy and your head is just, all you're doing is you're thinking about like, okay, editorially, what photos do we need? You're thinking about what story, what questions do I need to ask in post game? What do we need to get? What kind of photos do we need to get in for the post game show? You're thinking about all that kind of stuff. You can still appreciate like, man, this is a hell of a football game. And I think we might get a pretty good football game on Friday.
Generally, the bowl games we go to are pretty outstanding. I think one of the bad ones was the Cotton Bowl against USC.
Yeah, that was boring because that was, I think, 24-7 at halftime and 24-7 final.
I think this is an exciting Missouri offense and a very exciting Ohio State defense, and I'm writing about that right now. Just the strength on strength of the Missouri receivers and the Ohio State secondary, but also a very interesting Ohio State offense under Devin Brown, and to see how Missouri handles that, and to see this glimpse of what could be next year's Ohio State football, the way things are looking right now as we get a little bit more ambiance.
Yes. You got a super chat from Jordan Kapler. The primarily pungent Pickle Palooza 2. Electric Boogaloo.
Electric noodle? No.
Pickle. Electric Pickle Poo.
We're still workshopping. We're still working on it. Thank you for the super chat. Honestly, we need to put a lot more thought into it. We just haven't had time.
Yeah. This
week we'll have to set aside 4-hour block of time after we do this, and we'll workshop it. We do have a whiteboard somewhere near us.
Yes, it's in the media hospitality.
Oh, no, it was over at AT&T, wasn't it?
Maybe.
Well, tomorrow we'll be there.
We will.
We'll knock out a block of time, and we'll just anything pickle, anything dill, any play on words that something of that nature. But can't really think of anything right now.
Speaking of which, Troy V says Day is in quite the pickle of having a new quarterback. If they look unstoppable, they will be criticized. If they look incompetent, they will be criticized. I mean,
so great.
It's true to a certain degree. It was true to a certain degree. Where I think there's a whole subtext to the whole quarterback thing, where some people had staked out their opinions on this very early in the process and like really dug in on it, and then it was like, well, anything that disagrees with me is a lie and a conspiracy. And then you got a certain subset of the fan base that's like convinced that he has been doing this to his own detriment in Kyle McCord. I think they just felt Kyle McCord was a safer choice. Right. So I can definitely see how you will have a certain subset of people saying that, if McCord plays well, if Brown plays well, that, oh boy, this should have been a guy all season and this is conclusive proof. And if he doesn't play well, the same people are going to go, well, he didn't play all year. If he played him all year, he would have been so much better than this. So therefore we were still right. And if he doesn't play well, then, you're going to have, well, you can't even develop a quarterback because now you've got two guys who are terrible. And this is not the first time, and it's probably not the last time Ryan Day will find himself in a no-win situation. But in the words of Don Draper on Mad Men, that's what the money is for.
That is what the money is for. And really, this would be a terrible, tremendous problem for Ryan Day if he has to be criticized for a great quarterback performance from Devin Brown. It's like, darn, I wish that hadn't happened. But I guess he did have to go out there and throw for 350 yards. Now, don't I look like an idiot for it? Mm-hmm. But again, this is something where Devin Brown is getting the bulk of snaps for like 15 practices in terms of first team reps with the first team offensive line to the first team receivers against the second team defense, like an opportunity for him to really grow. We talk about this all the time about the growth that young players make over the course of the bowl game. And then also Brian Hartline talked about it today as well. I think just how you're like Devin Brown is always working on his leadership, but it's different when it becomes real and actual. And that's what this is now. So you can do all the stuff that you want to do, but when it becomes real and tangible, more growth happens. Brian Day talks about how playing in the games is really what makes you better, and that's what is the most important thing. I think you can say the same thing for being the starting quarterback, whether or not you've started a game or not. Once you become the starting quarterback, things change, and it creates this opportunity for growth that wasn't there before. And so I think it's okay to credit that and this opportunity, and everybody's a product of their failures. And what is to say that Devin Brown, if he has a great game, isn't a product of the failures in fall camp and learning your lessons and finding out exactly what it takes to do this job?
Well, I mean, you go back to fall camp, and there was sort of this Kyle McCord is consistently ahead, and then Devin Brown had a really good week, and everyone went, okay, Devin Brown. Different people started hearing Devin Brown is maybe making a push for a job, and then Devin Brown had a week where he turned the ball over during camp, and then Kyle McCord pulled back ahead and kept the job for the course of the season. You're allowed to learn from that lesson.
Yep.
You got to take care of the football. What's the number one job of the quarterback? Is to take care of the football. Well, that's an opportunity to learn from that. And we predicted stat lines for Devin Brown on our board, and I don't know that I saw yours, but Kevin and I independently ended up at like 18 for 28 and 20 for 30, and I had 250 yards and he had 225 yards. We both had 2 touchdowns, and I think I had a pick and he didn't. But if Devin Brown puts together a 67% completion for 225 to 230 yards, a couple touchdowns, maybe a pick, that's a pretty solid day. And I think that would be a good day. That's probably honestly about the best case scenario for Ryan Day, where it's not, he completes 80% of his passes for 600 yards and 6 touchdowns, but also he's not, 7 for 37 for 17 yards and 4 picks. An in-between game is probably like, okay, that's good. You have some positive momentum. You have a little bit of a floor for next year. You go into spring ball and fall camp with, okay, it's an open competition. Let's see what Lincoln Keenholz can do. Let's see what Devin Brown can do. Let's see if Aaron Nolan can earn his way onto the field in some form. And then you go from there.
Here's what you did. You went 20. You said 20 of 30 for 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Mm-hmm. Kevin said 18 of 28 for 225 with 2 touchdowns and no interceptions. And I said 19 of 27, 238 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception with 9 rushes for 29 yards and a touchdown.
I think it's interesting that we all ended up. Did you look at ours before you?
No.
Okay, yeah. I think.
Why would I look at, sir?
I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting that we all ended up in very much the same area, like a 67% for 225 to 250 yards, and accounting for 2 touchdowns and 0 to 1 pick. I think that's a perfectly reasonable. Well, I say this is a perfectly reasonable thing, and this is basically the thing that I said. So, I mean, perfectly reasonable, intelligent, even analysis of
Handsome.
what this might look like. I mean, if he does that, what's the response from Ohio State fans? Is that well? And I guess
that's a Kyle McCord line.
That's a stupid question, because the answer is, did they win?
Yeah.
And then. And if they won, then it's great, and he's a winner. And if they didn't, then he's a loser.
Those stat lines that is the Kyle McCord game.
Yeah.
2/3 of your passes completed, 230 some yards with a touchdown or 2. And that was, at times you're like watching it live, it's like, ooh, that was a rough throw. Oh, that was a bad series. But then it's like, wow, he's looked really good on these last 7 throws. Mm-hmm. If it's a consistent, no ups and downs. But again, we'll have to see how it looks in real time to make that call, because if you're just looking at stats, then there's nothing wrong with Kyle McCord.
Right. Yeah, and this is a results business.
Yep.
And no one knows that better than Ryan Day, who has won at a high level, recruited at a high level, and was a missed field goal away from probably winning the national championship last year, was an interception away from potentially beating Michigan and going to the Big Ten championship game and making the playoff this year. I mean, he's had a lot of almost but not quite. Even 2022, and we're going to set aside all the je ne sais quoi that we know was sort of floating in the ether around that game. If they successfully execute a fake punt with 10 minutes left in the game, they're potentially driving in for the tying or go-ahead touchdown, and then you're not playing cover 0. And then, there are so many little what ifs. The 2019 Fiesta Bowl, and I'm saying this as if this is like something that is passively happening to Ryan Day, and Ryan Day has not been aggressive enough in a number of these situations. But if Chris Olave doesn't break off his route and Justin Fields hits him for a touchdown at the 2019 Fiesta Bowl, all of these different things. There are so many like that much. Like Ryan Day is not getting destroyed in most of these games. I mean, outside of the national championship game against Alabama, where there was a whole bunch of number one, that was an incredible Alabama team. Number two, there was a whole bunch of COVID-related stuff that the teams were not playing under the same set of rules.
And the 45-23 was against Michigan was a 4-quarter game that was down to one score.
Yeah,
and a fourth, halfway through the fourth. So
yeah. And you know, the 2021 game they got whomped.
But it was still
It's
a one-score game in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, it was. But they got
bullied.
They got bullied in that one. The 2022 game is one we're going to revisit again in about 4 to 6 months, let's say. I think that RK wants to know, how heavy is the wrap on Brown's ankle, Devin Brown? He said it was purely a precautionary thing. It did not look like – now, he's not wrapped for a game.
Right.
But it was not wrapped like Kyle McCord's ankle was wrapped earlier in the year, where Kyle McCord it was like wrapped, and then there, you know, more and more. It was like super tightly wrapped. It was not super tightly wrapped, but this is a practice where he's in a no contact jersey. But he did say, yeah, it's wrapped, but it's just a precautionary thing. He said he was basically 100%.
Yeah, Emeka Ibuka back to 100% as well. So
Omar Austin says Kevin's dill thrill.
Oh, now we could play off thrill as well. The Dillogy, the
Pickle. What's the Dillio? Kevin suggests. Interesting. I did see someone in the chat mention. Okay, we'll get to this real quick. Aaron Kidd says, "What has this Buckeye team shown this season that makes anyone think they can beat an SEC team?" What does the patch on the uniform mean?
I don't know.
Vanderbilt is an SEC team. What has Ohio State shown that they could do this season, showing that they can beat Vanderbilt? Like, think about how stupid that question is. Like, that's the premise of the question, that the SEC patch on the uniform magically just makes them.
How many Alabama players are playing in this one?
Right, exactly. How many Georgia players are playing in this one? Right, and Missouri's a good team.
Yeah,
but Missouri got run over by LSU when they played LSU. Missouri lost to Georgia. I mean, it's not like Missouri has an incredible list of wins this year. I'll pull up their schedule.
They've beaten Florida.
They beat Florida, which
They beat Tennessee.
They beat Tennessee.
They played the East schedule.
Yeah.
They beat Kentucky.
Their list of wins this year is they beat South Dakota, which is an FCS team. That's not the good South Dakota team. That's the other South Dakota team. They beat Middle Tennessee, which fired its coach, Rick Stockstill, and just hired – do you know who they hired?
No.
Speaking of Vanderbilt, Derek Mason, the new head coach at Middle Tennessee State. They beat Middle Tennessee State, what are they, Sunbelt? I think Sunbelt team who fired their coach by 4 points. They beat Kansas State by 3. They beat Memphis, an AAC team, by 7. They beat Vanderbilt, the aforementioned Vanderbilt, 38-21. They lost to LSU. They gave up 49 points to LSU. They beat Kentucky, 38-21. They beat South Carolina, 34-12. They lost to Georgia. They beat Tennessee, 36-7. They beat Florida, and they beat Arkansas. I mean, they beat the teams in front of them. Right. But that's not exactly running through the future Super League of college football.
I had heard during while we were waiting around today, Missouri's last win over a top 10 team came in 2013.
Yeah, the last 10, I believe, games against top 10 teams they had lost. So, what the 16, 17 Missouri team did against the top 10 team has no bearing here. But just, sort of the blanket assumption that, well, this team plays in the SEC, they must be incredible.
Georgia has no bearing here. Alabama has no bearing here.
Right, yeah. So, Sikniyog says, the thrill of dill.
The thrill of dill. The thrill of spill.
I feel like we could do a, the dill of victory, the agony of.
The dill of victory.
The agony of.
If only Kevin's name was Bill, we could call it Dill Bill. The agony of
Treasure the Torah. Oh, wow!
There we go.
Another super chat. Treasure the Torah wants to eat another 150 pickles, Kevin.
This is the 25 McChickens that was suggested.
Yeah. All right. Well, in Treasure the Tour says, what's up, Tom and Tony G? Hope you're enjoying your time out there. The latest narrative I've heard is there's a different type of energy around the team. Devin Brown also tell my brother Kevin, love and respect. Salute to Buckeye Huddle. Thank you, Treasure.
Yes, the energy about Devin Brown, and that's a story that I'll probably have put on the site tomorrow at some point. The energy that he has, that he brings to the team, off the field, on the field, they are. It's a different kind of quarterback. It's a different kind of leader for the Buckeyes. When we talk to players in the past about Kyle McCord, it's always like he's the same guy.
Yeah,
From whether you're losing, whether it's a Tuesday, he's always the same guy. Where you have Devin Brown is an energy giver, and not that Kyle McCord was an energy taker, but don't say anything. But Devin Brown is an energy giver, gives energy to the entire team. So they're really kind of rallying behind them. And I think that narrative isn't just a narrative at this point. I would believe it.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of, and this is not like an intentional thing, but I think there's a little bit of a, like, you date the opposite of your ex thing, where, Kyle McCord was such a level, calm, cool, collected kind of guy that, that there are times when that's a positive and there are times when that's not a positive. And now, it's not that Devin Brown is like an absolute wild man. He's going to be like putting his head through the wall like one of the like old Raiders or whatever. But he's a little more energetic, a little more fiery maybe, and that's not bad. Again, there are going to be times when that's good, and there's going to be times when that's maybe not as good. There's going to be times when you want the calm, cool, collected guy, and there's going to be times you want the other guy. And it's rare that you find a guy who can just sort of do everything. I think Ohio State, you go back to CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud was not the super energy dude.
And he got criticized for that.
Stroud, anytime CJ Stroud threw an interception, you'd see his shoulder slump and everyone go, this guy's not a winner. And then,
no dog.
Just the regular old x-ray of the lungs with nothing in there. Yeah. And you look at CJ Stroud now, and CJ Stroud put up incredible numbers at Ohio State, won a crap load of football games at Ohio State, now is winning football games in the NFL. So there is not just one type of player that can win football games at quarterback, and it's going to be different for Ohio State, and that may be better. And I am trying to think of the last time I was this intrigued by a first-time starter at quarterback. Like, what is this going to look like? Because I could see it looking amazing and the offense looks completely different, or it might look the same and it's just kind of 5% worse than it was this season.
I think maybe Justin Fields, the interest there, because I think we knew CJ Stroud was going to be pretty good. Didn't know he was going to be the most accurate quarterback we'd ever seen at Ohio State, and he wasn't initially. That I think we figured all of that out against maybe Utah when it finally became crystal clear. Mm-hmm. But Justin Fields was a different guy. There was some interest in Dwayne Haskins for sure, but we also had an idea of what that was going to be. Mm-hmm. This, I can see so many different outcomes, and they range from very good to very bad. Yeah, I'm not expecting very bad.
Yeah, I think you've got this is the typical like bell chart where there's a lot of you've got the very bad outcomes. I guess I'll do this the other way for those folks on camera. The left tail outcomes, the very bad outcomes, they're there, but it's not very likely. And the closer you get to the median, and the median is probably about what we were projecting, 67%, 200 and something yards, a couple touchdowns. That's probably about the middle of the bell graph. And then you get the right tail outcomes, which are the really positive outcomes, which are, he goes 35 for 40. And he throws for 390 yards, and he throws for 4 touchdowns and no picks. I mean, that's on the graph. It's on the graph at the same level that, 10 of 23 for 79 yards is, but it's on the graph. But, there is the spectrum of possible outcomes is pretty wide here. And, this is also CJ Stroud had that incredible game against Utah. Utah was playing a running back at corner in that game. So Missouri's not playing a running back at corner, at least as far as we're aware. When we were at practice today, they had offensive linemen running pass routes. So maybe
big game for Devin Brown.
Maybe let's go back to the question about Ohio State not taking the game seriously. But super chat for Mike Smith. Put up a sign that says "Dilly Dilly, come see the amazing pickle chip eater guy. Charge admission to make some money." Also, this is hands-free. Is this hands-free like a pie eating contest? Or are we allowing utensils? Kevin, how many How many super chats do we need to get for you to do this like you're bobbing for apples?
I can't even find a number high enough.
$12, he says. 12? No, he did not say that. He did not say that.
And,
Yes.
and out of the jar. You got to get him out of the jar hands free.
Put your mouth around the whole mouth of the jar and then just chug. Yeah.
Yeah. No. This is not hands free. And are you allowing utensils, Kevin? You said you want a knife and a fork, or at least a fork. Knife and a fork and a bib.
Knife and a fork. Boy,
You put the fork on, you can eat like 8 at a time.
Yeah.
And the knife is just a stab of my haters.
Kevin says the knife is just to stab his haters, of which there won't be, because we'll all be going, Kevin. Now, the dilly come see Kevin, the amazing pickle eater chip guy. I'm okay with that. It's like,
yeah. And
amazing.
Lowercase too.
Yes.
This is not part of
with
his,
a question
this
mark?
is part of his name. Yeah. Like
this is not a legal name.
Is it italicized too? Just to, like,
do it in wingdings. You'll know.
What exactly is sarcasm fonts? I've been on the internet a long time. I feel like I
We'll
should
just
know
make
this.
that Comic Sans.
Yeah. Tristan Torres says, I feel like we dodged a bullet with the Raiola situation. And Dylan Raiola ended up signing with Nebraska. I think I saw $3 million from Georgia, which at this point, anytime I see an NIL number on the internet, I mentally divide it by at least 2 or 2.5 and get that's probably closer to the real number. Whatever the number was, Georgia kind of looked and went, yeah, okay, best of luck to you, sir. When, I don't know Dylan Raiola personally. I don't know his family personally. Broadly speaking, anytime you see a guy who's gone through multiple high schools, 3 high schools in this case, and then has been committed to now 3 different programs in college, I don't know that I necessarily foresee a long and fruitful tenure in his current spot. Like he keeps, he's a perpetual hopper.
Right.
And now he's going to settle down, and he's never going to leave us, and it's going to be great, and he's going to be cool, and he's the best ever. And I think when you have that incredible, unique level of talent, they don't necessarily feel that, some of the folks in the past maybe don't be, or the level of crap is so high that it is above the threshold. If you have been on the internet before, you have seen the hot crazy matrix. Right. Like, this is the football version of this, where at some point it's not worth dealing with your crap.
Yeah, and I almost feel like Georgia flipped him just to be like, look what we can do. And then you go and grab Dylan Raiola from Ohio State, and then it becomes what have we done? I don't think Georgia's upset about this at all. Sure, you'd love to have him, but in terms of you'd take him if there's no outside complications. Just as a player, you take him, allow him to compete. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's a guy that is going to compete in terms of, like, I need more assurances that I won't, like, you're not giving my spot to anybody else, are you? You're like, almost needs his hand held, and the family needs their hand held in terms of this situation. Now, I also think this is a situation that Matt Rule kind of needed to do, and I don't know whether he's being held hostage by the Raiolas at this point. I think this is an interesting and good move. It upgrades their talent level, upgrades their room, and some people get to the point where you're talking about what you're going to put up with. Nebraska is in a situation where they have to put up with a lot of crap right now, so they're more willing to do that. Georgia don't need to. Ohio State don't need to.
Right. Well, I'm going to frame this in sort of baseball terms, value over replacement player. And the replacement level in the Ohio State quarterback room is about there. The replacement level in the Georgia quarterback room is about there. The replacement level in the Nebraska quarterback room is, well, you can't see because my hand's under the table. Nebraska has not had a quarterback worth of crap in a long, long time. And they have been, they're at a point in the win curve where 1 or 2 extra wins, the difference between them not making a bowl game for the whatever. When was the last time they made a bowl game? 2016, I believe.
Thereabouts.
First time in the last 7-8 years, making a bowl game next year and not. if you make a bowl game, that's real tangible progress, and that's everyone is happy with you and life is good. And if you don't make, and if Dylan Raiola is worth 2 extra wins above and beyond Jeff Sims and Heinrich Harburger, which Lord knows he should be, then great. Then maybe it's worth all the, the circus music that's kind of constantly playing in the background. And again, I don't know Dylan Raiola. Maybe Dylan Raiola is the nicest kid and the most down-to-earth kid, and his parents are great. Maybe. But, you remember the episode of Justified where Timothy Oliphant talks about the fact that if you run into a jerk in the morning, you ran into a jerk. If you run into jerks all day, maybe you're the jerk. How many high schools, how many colleges? Like, at some point, it stops being a coincidence. But, we will all find out together when he gets to Nebraska.
Yeah, and it doesn't hurt that Ohio State replaced him with Aaron Noland, who arguably the best quarterback in the state that Dylan Raiola transferred to. Mm-hmm. So they did just fine there, and Aaron Noland will be on campus in about 2 weeks or so.
2 weeks, yeah.
So we'll see him there.
Jim Jensen says, "Will we see a big dose of Dallin? I know Trey starts, but ...
So we talked earlier in the show, Tom, and I don't know if we gave answers. Who has more carries in this game, Dallin Hayden or Devin Brown?
You earlier said you were leaning towards Devin Brown. I'm also leaning towards Devin Brown.
9-7, something like that.
I was going to say 10-8. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to see, say, 16 carries for Travion Henderson, 9 or 10 for Devin Brown, 8 for Dallin Hayden, and 2 or 3 combined between Emeka Ibuka and Xavier Johnson.
Around 35, 36
Yeah, something
carries.
in that neighborhood would be at least what I'm expecting. And boy, if Dallin Hayden doesn't get 8 carries in this game, like, if I'm Dallin Hayden, I'm kind of going like, what the heck?
Well, if it's like 6 for 80, and it's like, Dallin, this is your drive. We're going to give you every carry on this drive. And he goes like 62 yards for a touchdown. And it'll be like, sorry.
Yeah.
you should have conserved it. You should have spent it all in one place.
You used up all of your yards.
Yep. Never do that again, will you? Learn your lesson.
Stupid Dazzle says Ohio State will win their bowl game. Michigan will lose again. I promise. LOL.
Tom, say that name quickly one more time.
Stupid Dazzle.
I like that name. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, I mean, Michigan has won. They've won 1 bowl game since Harbaugh got there, right? And it wasn't in his first or second year, I think.
One, I believe, yeah.
Yeah. So, and boy, Michigan's in a really interesting situation because they have pushed all their chips in on this season, and right now that seems like a great bet. And everyone is standing around President Santa Ono at the poker table and going, "Wow, great job! Way to tweet bet. That's great." And boy, if those cards don't come up for them and all the chips are gone and you're headed into the off season you could be headed into, oh boy, I wonder how many people are going to be standing around Santa Ono cheering him on at that point.
Michigan right now is still a 1.5 point favorite, which is a little surprising to me that they're still up there, but lines are dictated by the bettors essentially by this point.
Treasure the Tour super chat. Tom, you hit the nail on the head. Some of these recruits are way too much drama. It can really hurt the culture we built at Ohio State. Another perfected example is that kid who went to Buffalo, then went public TV and made an ass out of himself. SMH. Who is that? Is that
Kevin? What's Buffalo?
Maybe he's talking about Syracuse.
Oh.
Did McCord go on TV? I don't think McCord went on TV.
No, he was on TV on the sidelines looking miserable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they lost. They were down. They were down 38-0
and
or
a
something.
tight end playing quarterback.
Yeah, I mean that
was not a good situation.
Well, you know who they had play. You know how they had. You know who they had playing quarterback? Dan Villari, who was going to be the quarterback. The quarterback for Syracuse in that game was the guy who was going to be playing quarterback for Michigan at Ohio State in 2020 when Ohio State was favored by 38 points or whatever it was, and that's why Brian Day was pretty sure they could hang 100 points that year. So, yeah, that was the guy who was playing quarterback for Syracuse in that game was Dan Villari, who was like a 2-star recruit out of I think somewhere on Long Island, and went to Michigan and was never higher than 4th string except during the COVID year when they had lost a bunch of players and it was getting real bad, and then he was the starter, and then they didn't play Ohio State.
And Jim Harbaugh declined to play Ohio State.
And they did have a, quote, very spirited practice the day or two after that. Troy V says, it's clear we live rent-free in every Michigan fan's head. They're about to get smoked by Bama, and all they can think about is us. It'd be cute if there weren't such stalkers about it. Now, we have had some folks in the comments who, well, I was a little more aggressive on the monitoring of the management of the comment section than perhaps is our typical. But yes, yeah, I think you have a small subsection of fans. Like you talk about, every fan base has the 10%, and I think not all, but a chunk of the Michigan fans or the Notre Dame fans when it was Ohio State Notre Dame season, or the Ohio State, whatever SEC fan du jour it is. That's the 10% that generally will show up and be real aggressive in the comments for a show they're not affiliated, about a school they're not affiliated with.
Every fan base has online fans who are seeking this stuff out.
Yeah.
We're not the only show that a subset of Michigan fans are watching that covers Ohio State.
And there are a number of Michigan fans we greatly enjoy interacting with. I think you need to be careful judging a whole other fan base based on, well, you can judge them off of the media. That's a whole separate conversation. But judging off of the people who show up and get real snotty in the comments, because there are Ohio State fans that I'm sure there is a Michigan show somewhere, and there are Ohio State fans in the comments who are constantly talking about Connor Stallions and whatever. And it's like, sometimes you got to let people have their space, and that's okay. Like you don't have to go on every Penn State show and remind them that they haven't beaten Ohio State, Michigan, except for once in the last whatever. I mean, you can let people coexist in another, in other college football spheres.
You say that, but I will never lose my Maryland burner account. I will always post on their rivals board about how much I hate them.
I just had this vision in my head of a coexist bumper sticker with a bunch of college football logos, and it's
that's ours.
No,
we got that idea.
Let me tell you something. No one's buying that. You've been online. No one's buying that.
You only need to get the trademarks from each of those 8 schools.
RK says, any Missouri players bring up Mookie Cooper. Real disappointing. Missouri did not make Mookie Cooper available during interviews yesterday, which was deeply annoying to me. I talked to Brady Cook, the Missouri quarterback, quite a bit about him. He talked about how he fits a really good role in their offense. He's made some big plays. He had a big play against Florida, had a big catch in the win over Florida. He has been a really solid player for them. He's not like a little. He always felt like someone who's just going to kind of be a role player at Ohio State. Where Ohio State, just that specific guy has not really found success at Ohio State over the years. Like that's the Jalen Gill kind of guy, or that specific role has never found success for Ohio State. But he's turned into a nice player for Missouri, and they have 3 really good wide receivers: Theo Weiss, Luther Burden, Mookie Cooper. I think Mookie Cooper going for 5 catches and 60 yards or something on Friday like that. I think he's going to have a solid, not necessarily spectacular day, but he's an outside receiver for them. Luther Burden plays in the slot. So he's going to be going up against Davis Nigmanosin or Denzel Burke. I don't know that I'm expecting a huge day from him, but he is someone who I think going home to Missouri, he's a St. Louis kid, going home to Missouri, playing in this offense where, again, like Luther Burden, maybe a little easier path to the field. I think has made the most of his opportunity. And, I asked Brady Cook, so has he got a little extra juice this week? He's like, oh yeah. He's excited to get another chance to play Ohio State.
Yeah. And it has been interesting to watch him. He is a slot receiver at Ohio State. And you get to Missouri and you're probably going to do that same role, but then they move Luther Burden around. They put Luther Burden in the slot. And Mookie Cooper's gone outside, and he does just fine there. 34 catches this year for 400 and some yards, something like that. And he will line up, like I said, outside. We saw him, I think, in the LSU game, line up in the backfield at times and motion out. And so they'll do all kinds of different things for him. And, yeah, he's definitely looking forward to this one. Back to Luther Burden talking about Ohio State. He also mentioned the fact that one of his friends was Jameson Williams. And I think it was over for Ohio State once Jameson Williams was getting no touches, and he's starting, and he's even playing and starting and still can't get any action. And then, he leaves, and then it's like, if Jameson Williams can't get the ball, how am I, what hope do I have? And you see a guy go and leave and become successful, extremely successful in Alabama. You're like, I need to go find some place that's going to throw me the ball.
Well, and what's interesting is you look at Jamison Williams and like, well, Jamison Williams was a top 15 pick. How could you not throw him the ball? It's like, well, you know who else was also top 15 picks? The other two guys in the field. You know how many footballs there are? You can throw it once? One. And, he was on the field at the time that you also had Trey Sermon on the field, and Trey Sermon setting the Ohio State single game rushing record. And I mean, so you run into a not enough footballs problem at Ohio State, and that happens a lot. And that's why you see guys transferring out of that wide receiver room to a certain degree. One thing that was brought up during the interview with Brian Hartline today, which it was one of those things I just hadn't thought about, was Brian Hartline has never brought in a transfer wide receiver.
Yeah.
Which is it's very interesting because you see so much churn every position group in the country, and they've brought in transfer quarterbacks, they've brought in transfer running backs, they have tried bringing in transfer tight ends and it hasn't happened. They brought in transfer offensive linemen, they brought in transfer defensive linemen, they brought in transfer corners, transfer safeties. Have they brought in a transfer linebacker? I don't think they have, but
Paulier
Natiote. So wide receiver is the only spot. Kickers they have.
Yep.
So they've done it pretty much everywhere, but they've never brought in a transfer wide receiver or punter. Well, transferring for other continents, yes. But in terms of wide receivers, that's just Brian Hartline has made. Brian Hartline recruits so well, and has got to a point where he, if you're starting for Brian Hartline and you're, there's a very clear progression, and Garrett Wilson was on this progression. Chris Olave was on this progression. Jackson Smith-Jigba was on this progression. Marvin Harrison was on this progression, and now it sure as heck seems like Chris Olave was, or Emeka Egbuka was on this progression. Now it sure as heck seems like Carnell Tate is. Freshman year, you start to make a little bit, get on the field a little bit. By the end of freshman year, hey, maybe some of the other older guys opt out, or you take out a bigger role. Second year, bigger season, third season, and then you're on the NFL.
Well, and Hartline even said he takes pride in not going to the portal for receivers. Takes pride in recruiting guys, the right guys, developing them, and making the most of their careers and their abilities. I think it also helps that so many of these guys are 3-year players, so the people behind them aren't necessarily waiting an extra year, and it's like, come on. Mm-hmm. Like when Chris Olave decided to come back, is that what sent Jamison Williams into the portal at that point? Was that right?
It might have been, that Olave came back, and it was like clear that he was not going to have the clear deck. RK says, saw a picture of James Peoples at practice. He's a lot bigger than I thought he was. Here is the picture of James Peoples at practice today. He's standing with Tony Alford. And this is something where it's kind of like the local kids, the kids who you recruited from that area, will sometimes come and watch some bowl practice while you're sort of in their neck of the woods. People's, of course, a Texas player. He's from San Antonio, I believe, which is like 4 hours away. Last year, Jelani Thurman, Georgia native, was there at Peach Bowl practices. So, yes, he was there at practice today. I did not see Kevin Wilson, but apparently Kevin Wilson was at practice as well.
What's the drive from Tulsa?
Tulsa's actually not that far. Did you know that Tulsa did not have a great season. Did you see that they were like the number 2 team in the non-power conferences in terms of recruiting? They brought in an incredible class. So, year one there was not great, right, but maybe they've got some stuff in the pipeline there.
And we'll talk more in the offseason about James Peoples, because I think he could be he could have a role in this offense next year. But it's still the third running back, if that's what he is. It's still going to be a little tough to get carries there, but I think he's a special player.
Stu Bedazzle says, hit the like. Strong agree.
There you go. And I don't know how much longer are we going today?
An hour 20.
Yeah, we're at an hour 20. So I don't know, maybe 5-10 minutes more.
Stephen Cherry asks, did I miss noon eating 150 pickles? No. You have not missed that. We will not let anybody miss that. The plan is to do that sometime Thursday early evening between the hours of 6:30 and 7:30-ish. Is that right, Kevin? They call it, you know what they call that hour time?
Is that the pickle hour?
That is the pickle hour. Mm-hmm. And so the pickle hour of power, we have not set a time frame in terms of how much time he has. Yeah. Do we need to set it? Kevin, you want a limit because you don't want to be there for an hour and a half.
So
30 minutes?
Okay, so I know everyone's very concerned about missing the Kevin Noon Pickle Power Hour. make sure you are following all of us on Twitter. If you are on Twitter, follow us on Twitter. We will make sure we put it out, maybe set a notification on one or more of our accounts. Make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Make sure you hit the bell on the YouTube channel. Maybe just keep the YouTube channel just up constantly on your computer or your phone.
That will help.
Because I know you do not want to miss it. And I got to tell you, I don't know if watching this non-live is going to have quite the same impact, because you're going to know whether he died or not if, by the time this is done. You'll have the in memoriam on Twitter and stuff if it goes poorly. So you want to watch live. This is like an Evel Knievel jump, where it's like, if you watch it a week later, like, you're going to know if Evel Knievel crashed into the fountain at Caesars. Like, you're going to know if Kevin turned into an enormous pickle, like, was it Veruca Salt? No, Violet Beauregard. Yeah. If he turned into an enormous pickle, like Violet Beauregard, you're going to find out in advance. You want to be watching it live.
Now, all due respect to Kevin Newton, if he does die by pickle.
No.
If he
take
does,
that back.
If he does die by pickle, is it in poor taste to go back and watch it repeatedly? And would it be in poor taste? You know how the YouTube accounts will do, like, here's 10 hours of this. 10 hours of Kevin Newton eating pickles.
If I die, I'm not leaving any of my camera equipment to Tom. I'll leave it all to you.
Thank you. I'll sell it to you for.
That's fine. I'll give you the unopened jar of pickles.
There's no way one jar of pickles is going to do in Kevin Newton. I have confidence that he can eat at least 76.
He may have been a little fast loose.
I'm going to leave the fast and loose alone.
Yep. Let's see. I'm just kind of scrolling through the comments here. More pickle emojis. A lot of pickle emojis. Mike Ferguson wants to know if his health insurance covers eating competitions.
Yes, it does. As long as you don't tell anybody. This conversation never happened.
That's the key. Yeah.
And so, like, on the hospital bed, they're gonna be like, "Mr. Newton, can you please explain this video?" And Kevin will be like, "Oh, that's CGI."
Troy V says, "I'd watch all 10 of those hours." Yeah, I mean, you know what? Got to make sure it's monetized before we set out 10 hours. Do we have to put commercial breaks? If we turn it into a podcast, we need to put commercial breaks every 20 minutes.
Everybody
podcast.
Typing in all of these pickle stuff, they're going to be inundated with Google ads about pickles and all of their browsers now. It's going to show up on their phones.
When you start getting ads for pickle ornaments, pickle ice cream, just remember, it's not our fault. It's Kevin's fault.
Omar Austin, the super chat, does $100 worth of super chats get Tony to eat 40 packets of ketchup? No, it does not. I'm sorry. I'm not eating straight ketchup. No, absolutely not. It is not happening.
$150?
No, because I don't even think I could eat.
Kevin suggests that if Tony doesn't want to eat 40 packets for $100, would he eat 50 packets for $100?
Kind of like the Jim Harbaugh suspension theory.
Yes. Mm-hmm. You want to suspend me for 4 games? How about 3?
Mm-hmm.
No, I won't do any of that. The ketchup packets one thing with the red plastic squeezable ketchup bottles that they're in restaurants, you fill that up and it's just just do the whole thing.
Like Super Troopers when they're chugging the bottle of syrup. Yeah.
No, it's not gonna happen. Now we could do the boot of beer, perhaps, but still no.
Their dining options around here. Fuel City. We have not gotten to Fuel City.
We're very far from everything.
Yes, Fuel City Tacos is one of our favorites down in the Metroplex. I think we've been there both times that we've been here. It is, if you're not familiar, it is just a gas station, but as a gas station, it is a gas station in the same way that Bucky's is a gas station, where it's that is technically true, but it doesn't really capture the spirit of the place. Fuel City Tacos has a petting zoo. It has plastic dinosaurs outside, life-size plastic dinosaurs outside.
Although those are just cows, you're not supposed to pet them.
Well,
it is Texas, though.
It is Texas. And they have a fantastic taco place right inside the gas station. And it was really, really good tacos, and they were cheap. It was just a couple bucks a taco. It was very, very good. So yes, I don't know if we're going to make it to Fuel City on this trip, but that is, if you are in the area, that is highly recommended. Mike Ferguson says 8 jars of mayo for $40. I think we're going absolutely in the wrong direction here.
They're eating mayo is a real competitive eating thing. Mm-hmm. Jars of mayo, can't. No.
I feel like our old friend of the program, Ari Wasserman, was around this week. I feel like he's done some of that eating,
Oh.
the like challenge eating stuff. I don't know if we want to go down that road.
No. So no mustard power hour, shot of mustard a minute for 60 minutes. I'm not a mustard person.
Oh boy. Depending on the mustard, like the first one could be like, it's not too bad. And about the fifth one, the Chinese mustard, that's a spicy meatball.
Now, I've never done the power hour, but I did do the Century Club. So power hour would be no problem in terms of if it's just shots of beer. That's nothing.
I'm just scrolling through questions here. I think we're more than likely.
Mike Ferguson says where he lives in Texas, every gas station has tacos.
Yeah, and you know what? That is a delightful thing. That's I could do that.
Omar, no, we're gonna need to stop the show so that Omar Austin stops sending in the super chats.
All right,
because these are just
now we're
$150 in super chats. You see, Tony shaved Kevin's back, and here's the thing. It's already shaved.
All right, so we're going to do – I have a couple pictures in here that I just threw in here. We're just going to look at some pictures, and we're not going to – there we go. Just put some pictures up on the screen, and that's it. There's Cardinal Tate fielding a punt today at practice. Thought that was a nice picture. And then this one, which people were like, is this AI? And the answer is no. That is Missouri head coach Eli Drinkwitz. He normally wears a visor, had his yellow visor on at practice yesterday, and then today, as they had offensive linemen running routes and stuff, he was out there in a cowboy hat and not his visor. So just things are getting a little weird down at the Cotton Bowl.
I like the cowboy hat sweats look. I think it's an underrated, underappreciated, underutilized.
That feels like a combination that doesn't it's like you're taking two different Lego guys and combining
construction worker and nurse.
Yeah, like construction worker on the top and like an astronaut on the bottom or something.
That's not right.
It doesn't.
Yeah, you put the wrong Lego hat on.
Yeah. But yeah.
Well,
Burleson Buckeye says we need us to do a Buc-ee's review. That I can tell Kevin's not really listening because he didn't jump out of the chair when I said that. Oh well, arguably he's the one who punched the question.
Yeah, we will eventually do a Buc-ee's review on a road.
Wait, were we all together coming back from the Peach Bowl? We were, right? Yes, we were. Right? Oh, yeah, Kevin flew back.
We
okay. You and I stopped at a Buc-ee's on the way back from the Peach Bowl last year. Yeah, we'll do that at some point because that's a phenomenon of its own, and it's there's plenty of content there. And because I think I brought you. Didn't I bring you beaver nuggets or something?
Yes.
I think I brought you. I think I brought you.
Had some.
I just bought you 2 jars of pickles. How could you say I'd never done anything nice for you?
Yeah, I apologize.
No, I did. I walked uphill both ways to a grocery store this morning. I got up at 6 a.m. to walk to a grocery store.
All right, so let's start wrapping up here because the bickering is getting to be too much. Let's all simmer down and be kind to each other. There will be time for shenanigans and more tomorrow night when Kevin is knee-deep into 150 pickles. Yes. It will be amazing.
We'll get on the air before that.
Yeah, no, we're going to be back. We'll do something tomorrow afternoon after the coaches speak. We'll be live there, so you'll get to say hello to Kevin, goodbye to Kevin.
Yeah, when you say afternoon, that can mean a couple different things in different contexts.
$2 super chat from Omar Austin.
RIP to a real one.
$150 to see Tony shave his head with ketchup.
Oh.
Well, that way you couldn't tell where the bleeding is, so that would be okay. Although I bet ketchup may sting in the cuts.
Ryan Dawes sends a very generous super chat. Thank you, Ryan, for Kevin's recovery fund from Pickle Fest 2023.
And since Google gets 30% of this, and then the rest gets split a variety of ways, that is about $325 for Kevin.
What do we think about Pickle Fest 2K23, like the NBA video game?
How about Pickle Fest Too Fast, Too Furious?
Too dill, too
delirious. Well, again, we're workshopping it. We'll get something out there correct. Thank you very much, Ryan, for that. I don't even know what the best way to recover from Pickle Fest is. Gherkin harder, Gherkin. I think that's pretty good.
I think I just heard the end of the show. Yep, that's it. All right.
So thank you all for tuning in. We do always appreciate it, especially joining us this late notice. Thank you so much. And find us at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Become a member. It's not just Pickle Talk there. We also talk Ohio State sports, Ohio State football, recruiting, stuff going on behind the scenes as well. We had an all-day chat today, Kevin, Tom, and I, and we're still working on that one as well. So thank you all for tuning in, and we will talk to you guys later.